The time is now noon in Madison, Wisconsin. Good afternoon, and welcome to our webinar for Design Thinking for Innovative Problem Solving. My name is Brittany Browning, and I am a Learning Experience Specialist with the Leadership and Management portfolio here with the Division of Continuing Studies at UW-Madison. A quick reminder that VPNs and remote connections can hinder your audio and video quality, so we recommend logging on outside of those. We are recording today's session. If you hover near the bottom of your screen, you should get a Q&A option. If you have any questions for our presenter, please feel free to use that to submit your questions, and we will get to as many of those as possible. If you need technical assistance, please use the chat feature and select hosts and panelists to send us a direct message. Without further ado, I will turn the floor over to my colleague, Sierra Garcia, who is an Executive Development Program Manager here with the Division of Continuing Studies. Go ahead, Sierra.
Thank you, Brittany. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Design Thinking for Innovative Problem Solving free course preview. We're so glad you're here and taking the time to learn with us today. Whether you're brand new to design thinking or looking for new ways to approach complex challenges, we appreciate your curiosity and your interest in the topic. As Brittany mentioned, my name is Sierra Garcia, and I'm an Executive Development Manager here at the University of Wisconsin's Division of Continuing Studies, which is hosting today's free learning event. At the Division of Continuing Studies, our mission is to advocate for and engage lifelong learners through high quality and innovative programs and services. This course preview is a great example of that mission in action. Today's webinar is a preview of the content covered in the full Design Thinking for Innovative Problem Solving course. If you would like more detailed information about the full program, you can scan the QR code that's on your screen or use the link that's going to be provided in the chat. During this webinar, please use the Q&A feature to submit your questions. We'll address some of them throughout the session and others during our dedicated Q&A time at the end. And once again, if you need any technical assistance, please reach out to Brittany in the chat. Our session will run until 12:45, and we are recording today's presentation. You will receive the recording link after the session. All right, excellent. Let's get started. So today's agenda, quick welcome, what is design thinking, a quick activity, Q&A, and what to expect from the full course. And now, without any further delay, it's my pleasure to introduce today's instructor, Holly Ann Burns, founder and CEO of Burns Design Strategy.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm thrilled to be here along with my colleagues Sierra and Brittany, and thank you both for all your help in planning this webinar. So yes, I'm Holly Ann Burns, and I am the founder and CEO of Burns Design Strategy. I have been leading project teams across design disciplines since I graduated with my master's in design management from Pratt Institute in 2010. I also have an undergraduate degree from the UW-Madison in liberal studies and fine arts. And I have been teaching workshops and doing keynote speaking engagements since 2019. So let's get started. What I like to start every course with, every workshop with, is a kind of a community guidelines. It's something we all commit to together. And that means that we are creating a space where people feel safe to share. And during these activities, during these workshops, we're always doing a lot of work with other attendees as well as with myself. And so when I say I'd like us to make space, it means if you're somebody that's really quick to raise your hand or contribute, that's awesome. You process quickly. Thank you so much. In this case, I would like you to just take a few beats and allow other people to speak. And then conversely, if you are somebody that needs a little more time to process and maybe isn't as quick to speak, I challenge you to step out of your comfort zone and push yourself to share and contribute. Perspectives, we don't all have to agree. Of course, there are going to be multiple perspectives in the room or in the virtual room. And then I statements, always speak on behalf of yourself and not on behalf of others. And please don't paraphrase for what other people say, because of course that can change the meaning. Presume positive intentions. I think that one speaks for itself. You decide. This means you decide how much comfort or discomfort you want to step in and out of while we're together in these sessions. Listen to understand. You're listening to fully hear what the other people have to say and not to confirm or to jump in and defend your own ideas. And then, of course, my favorite one, what is said here stays here. What is learned here leaves here. That means if people are sharing personal examples from their day-to-day, from their personal or professional lives, then that type of information is going to stay with the attendees in the session. But of course, the learnings, we want you to take those out, get them into your teams and your organizations, and disseminate the information you've learned. So since the 60s, there have been a lot of design movements. In the 60s in America, there was something called design science, where design teams were considered elite, exclusive, very process-driven. But meanwhile, over in Scandinavia, they were using an inclusive approach to design and problem solving. They were inviting everyone in to be involved with design discussions. You didn't have to be a design expert. Designers were basically like guides. But we only have 45 minutes together today, so we're not going to go through every minute change in those design movements. So let's fast forward to the 2000s, when Harvard Business Review, Forbes, and IDEO popularized the terms design thinking and human-centered design, and from there it has just taken off. What is design thinking? So design thinking is a way of making your ideas real. What does that mean? It helps you process the information around you. It helps you creative problem solve, and it's very process driven. So we'll talk a little bit more about what that means. And it's also iterative, another thing we're going to dive into today together. The other piece of design thinking is that there's a bias for action. Keep the momentum going. And when we're together in our course long, when it's not just a 45-minute session for a webinar, you'll see there's a pretty fast clip, and you might feel a little bit uncomfortable, a little awkward. That means you're learning, and I encourage you to lean into those awkward moments and just try to embrace it. The way that these sessions work, the way that I run these sessions, is that it's very much not me talking at you. It's us talking together and learning together and processing and discussing. And so if you have questions that bubble up, please, please, please make your questions be known. Bring them to me so that I can help you answer them. And it's usually that if you're having a question, probably other people in the room, in the virtual space, are also having those questions. So what are the 5 stages of design thinking? They are empathy, define, ideate, prototype, and test. In empathy, this is when you are doing a ton of research. You're trying to understand the people or the person that you're solving for. You're trying to understand their habits, their needs, their pain points, what motivates them. And this is so important because naturally as humans, we want to avoid anything super risky. And we all have natural bias that we have. Simply, we've all come from different backgrounds, different families, different homes, possibly different cities or states or countries. And while that's all wonderful, the point of empathy in design thinking is that you are solving and thinking about other people and setting aside your own bias because, with innovation, a little bit of risk is necessary. And it's kind of like, I like to have people think about, if you've ever had kids, before you had kids, you probably assumed, gosh, it looks like it's a lot of work. It looks pretty hard. You're probably pretty tired and busy. But once you've had kids, all of a sudden, the definition of tired and busy is totally different. And so the assumption doesn't match the reality. And I challenge you to think about that, not only in this course, but outside of the virtual walls of the class. And then in define, this is when you take all of that juicy information that you gathered in the empathy stage. And in the empathy stage, it's like interviewing people, observing, watching, doing a lot of research online and benchmarking what else is happening out there. And so you're taking all of that empathy work and you're kind of like condensing it down to figure out what problem are you going to solve for, because of course we all know you can't solve for all the problems all the time. And when you're defining, it's figuring out what that problem is and creating a problem statement so that you and your teammates can all gather around and align, and that defined problem statement becomes your North Star. Then we move to ideate, and in ideate, that's right, you're going to be doing a lot of ideation and brainstorming. And what does this have to do with define? Well, you're taking that problem statement, that well-defined problem statement, and you're generating solutions and ideas to solve that problem. And the biggest piece that's so important in ideation is that we have a tendency to want to evaluate. What does that mean? We have a tendency to, while we're thinking of ideas, be like, oh, no, that won't work. Oh, that's not a good idea. Oh, that's impossible. That's too expensive. Nobody will want that. I don't even know how we would get the resources together to do this. Don't do that. Don't evaluate. Just generate ideas. Go for great numbers of ideas. And basically, when you start evaluating, it hinders creativity and all those really amazing ideas that come out. And after you kind of like simmer on the problem statement, all of those ideas will not come out if you start evaluating and judging and feeling intimidated or like you can't share. So I think we've all had moments there where that has really hindered our creativity. But there is time for evaluation in this process. And that time is when you get to starting to think about that prototype. And when I say prototype, I want you to know prototypes come in a variety of forms. The key thing here is try to remove the idea that a prototype is like a tangible artifact or a tangible model, right? We're all thinking about that foam model or whatnot. But instead, we're not all in product development. We're thinking about the solutions for that emotional thing. And we're moving from a product to a solution. And you're going to be looking at all those ideas that you generated, some of them great, some of them not so great, some easy to execute, some impossible to execute, some that are just mind-blowingly creative, but how can we ground them in reality? And that's in the prototyping stage when you decide these ideas are worth making into a prototype. And once you have those prototypes, you are moving into that last mode of design thinking, this final step, but not final step, as we will learn in the slides ahead. But testing is when we take the prototypes we've created and we test them with users and gain feedback. Feedback is gold in design thinking. I'll tell you more soon. So I said, first stage, last stage, final stage. Is this process linear? Meaning, do we just go from empathy to define, ideate, prototype, and test, and then we're done? It's all in a little box with a bow? No. Design thinking is highly iterative, meaning that as you're proceeding through these different stages, you may find out you need to revisit an earlier stage. So let's say you define a problem statement, you start to generate ideas and you're just falling short, you're floundering, nobody can come up with something. You may need to go back to the define stage and look at that information from empathy and create a new problem statement. Or perhaps you realize, you know what, I don't think we really have a good problem statement to move forward with. I think we need to ask a few more questions in the empathy stage. Or maybe you get to the prototyping stage and you try to make that really cool idea a real prototype and you realize, actually, we need to revisit another step earlier. So it's highly iterative. You may be going back a step, you may be getting several steps ahead, and then even at the test stage, yes, that's when you're getting that juicy feedback, and you're going to get some feedback that tells you, I need to go back and make things better in this certain way. And it's not a criticism, it's simply a way to make the best possible solution for the end person, the person you're making your things for. And yeah, the feedback-driven thing, knowing that feedback is so crucial. So teams that have applied design thinking practices at IBM have calculated an ROI of up to 300%. I share this slide often because businesses care about money, right? About financial gain. Design thinking is truly great for business, but the part I like best is that design thinking is good for people, making things for people based on their needs and their very real pain points is better than making things based on your assumptions, bias, or just because someone told us to do it that way. Let's kind of explore a little bit about that people piece. I have a few case studies to share. Now, this case study is one that I heard and it has stuck with me. UNICEF was tasked with helping out in a village in Africa to bring a water pump to the village. Now, why were they bringing a water pump to the village? Well, the women that were in the village, they were responsible for the cleaning of the home, the cooking of the food, and every day in the morning, they had to go down to the river and get water and bring it back home. Sounds pretty easy. Well, guess what? The river was 1.5 miles from the village center. That was the closest water source. So they were going down there, gathering the water, and then carrying this heavy water back 1.5 miles. And this water was something they used in their homes, cleaning, cooking, all of the above. So UNICEF was like, we want to solve their problem. This is so much work. They're walking, they're carrying heavy weights. This cannot be good for them. And so they kindly built a water pump in the center of the village so they could solve those problems for those end users, those village women. Guess what? They built the water pump. Did people use it? No, people didn't use it. And why do you think they didn't use it? Because nobody asked them about their experience. Nobody went to that end user, those women making that trek, to see, do you hate this walk? Do you hate going down to the river? Do you hate carrying the heavy water back? Maybe they would have found out they didn't like that part, but the piece they would have learned if they'd actually asked the end user is that those women, the only time they had social time, the only time they were outside of their hut having a good time was down at the river. They'd see all their friends, they'd catch up, they'd learn about their families, they'd have connection. And when they put the water pump in the center of the city, that connection point was lost. That social moment and opportunity was gone. So that's Africa. How do we bring that back to here in Madison? Well, how many times have we missed some sort of a project or a gift, an initiative, missed the mark because we didn't communicate or really think about that end user and understand the stakeholders' needs? We thought, this is a great idea. I'm helping them. I know people will like this. But it was based on assumption and not actually reality and talking to the people who use those services, those systems, or even products. So I'm going to give you a totally different case study. And this case study is something that a lot of us can relate to. This case study, I call it the case of the Mondays. And essentially, in our society, in our culture here in America, we've heard the terms the Sunday blues, or, oh my God, it's Monday morning, it's Monday, all those GIFs about Monday being so awful. And so that's a pain point, right? That's something people dread. So I have taken this to, I took this and I took it to a client, and that was something they wanted to ideate on, they wanted to figure out. And so I asked their team, here's a problem statement we created. How might we turn something people dread into something people enjoy? And this very, very crafted problem statement, this how might we, which is something we use a lot in design thinking, it gets everybody aligned and on one page about what are we trying to solve for. But it has to be kind of flexible, right? Because we want people generating ideas and not being smushed into generating one or two ideas that everybody thinks of. So some of the ideas that came out of this session, people had, here's a few ideas. On Mondays, it's the new casual Fridays. On Mondays, we get free lunch. On Mondays, everyone wears a costume. On Mondays, we don't have meetings. On Mondays, whoever has the most meetings gets a half day on Friday. On Mondays, it's work from home day. On Mondays, we have happy hour. On Mondays, it's donut day. On Mondays, you're only allowed to schedule 2 meetings. On Mondays, meetings can't be longer than 30 minutes. On Mondays, everyone goes home at 3 p.m. And on Mondays, we fly to Europe. totally absurd, but guess what? Those absurd ideas are so crucial because they can generate some really fun conversations and some ideas that are actually based in reality. Because remember, we're not evaluating those ideas in this step of the process. So we are going to now do a fun activity together. And we have a webinar. And when we're in the course in reality, in the actual full length course, we get breakout rooms. We get to have a lot of fun with the chats, with emojis, and a lot of interaction. People get to come on camera. We talk through and work things together. But in a webinar, you don't have as many of those opportunities. And we still want to practice what we're learning. And so we are going to dive into a how might we statement. And again, in the real course, we'll have lots of different activities, and we'll have a lot of different templates and worksheets you can take with you and practice with your own teams, right? But for this purpose of this activity, we are going to jump into the second stage of design thinking. That's the define stage, and we are going to create some how might we statements. So, you know, in design thinking, these usually come after the result of a lot of research in that empathy stage and taking those findings and determining what problem we want to solve for. In product development, determining what product to solve for starts with analyzing the pain points of our end users or the customers of a product, service, or system. But in the real world, a lot of you aren't working in product, right? So we are going to think about the people we're designing for or making things for, whether it's PowerPoint presentations, agendas, whether it's spreadsheets, whether it's reports, whether it is simply generating a survey for your teammates, whatever it might be, you're designing these things for end users, for opening them up and using them. And so we are going to think about how to create better solutions for ourselves, our colleagues, our peers, clients, and others by focusing on their pain points or moments of friction for you, your colleagues, your peers, and clients. So what are we going to do? We are going to generate as many how might we statements as we can in the chat. We are going to have just 1 minute. You're going to be quick, quick, quick. And when I say generating them, I mean, you're just coming up with a question, a statement. You're not answering anything you're seeing here. You are literally creating how might we's. And for example, how might we make the start of the workday feel exciting, something we look forward to? How might we turn meetings into something people can't wait to join? The topic is up to you. Yes, keep it professional. Keep it in your workplace. Things like, how might we make a stand-up meeting be done in 15 minutes? How might we do this? So reminder, we're not looking for perfection. We're not looking to solve these questions. We're looking to generate these questions. We'll have time to answer them in another step potentially. So right now, I want you in the chat to type in as many how might we statements as you can. And I'm starting my timer now. And I know that we are going to go ahead and just see these examples and just generate how might we statements that might, based on your pain points at your office. How might we actually get to take lunch instead of working through lunch? You know, how might we get to leave work on time instead of working late? So go ahead and just plug them in. Awesome. I see them coming in. And thank you, Brittany is monitoring this. And I'm just looking at my timer here. We're down to 40 seconds. Okay, and I am going to look at the chat. Wow, look at this. You guys are on a roll. This is wonderful. Generate, generate, generate. Yes, yes, yes. Excellent. Wow. Oh my gosh, these are great. All right, you're close. Awesome, guys. You have done so well. You've done a great job. You're really coming up with some great how might we statements. So what we're going to do is now I'm going to just read a few and then I'm going to pick one. Normally as a team, all of us would be able to vote, and we do this as kind of a whole inclusive thing. But for the purposes of a webinar, I'll just pick one. So, oops. Let's review. How might we improve individuals' capability to lead themselves? How might we reduce staff burnout? How might we determine what needs to be done and only what needs to be done? How might we share achievements with a wider audience? How might we help individuals define their data needs more accurately? How might we organize our file storage? All of these, excellent, excellent. So I am going to go ahead and pick one how might we statement. And the how might we statement, if I can ask Brittany to type this into the chat so that people know what it is, we're going to generate ideas to solve for this problem statement. How might we improve staff attendance? So it sounds like, how do we get more people to come to work and show up and do the work? How might we improve staff attendance? And now don't evaluate. Don't think, oh, that's not going to be good enough or that doesn't work. Just try to answer that statement. How might we improve staff attendance? I'm going to just set that timer. 30 seconds. Try to drop in as many ideas to solve how might we improve staff attendance. Awesome. I see some good ones coming in. This is great. Wow. 5 seconds. Bring in the last one. Come on, type in another one. There you go. You got it. You got it. Got it. Got it. And awesome. There's my nice lucky timer. Nice work, you guys. Look at that. In 30 seconds, see how many ideas we were able to generate because we had a concise how might we statement defined and everybody could be aligned. And there were some great ideas that people dropped in. Some of them are totally realistic and happen today. Some of them could happen with a little planning at the end of the week. Some are more future focused or maybe a little bit out there, but guess what? Somebody might bounce off of your idea. And so those absurd ideas are incredibly crucial for us in design thinking because we can create other ideas based on your absurd idea. We get our better ideas coming out. So that was awesome. And I am just so proud of you guys. And then we would normally have like a nice discussion. Actually, we could discuss this a little bit. I would love, actually, yeah, we would normally have a discussion and talk about these ideas. So I will go ahead and read some off. So how might we improve staff attendance? Prizes for 1% of attendance, incentivize public transport, harsh penalties, no meetings, giveaways, productive environment. There's something fun at every meeting. Be inclusive, free childcare. Oh my gosh, can I get an amen? Fun icebreakers. Absolutely. Bring fun in. If we're not having fun, it's really hard to really dedicate ourselves, right? Especially work. We're spending so much time there. Okay, let's see here. Dedicated time for casual conversation. Those building of relationships, that trust building is nothing but wonderful for a workplace. Make it part of employee goals, have team meetings, be the first thing, a daily stipend. Begin the day with a stand up. That's great. Yep. I'm just going to do a few more here. Free food and snacks. Of course, we all love to eat and snack and munch and share and break bread together. Some cultures, that's like such an awesome, important part. Staff luncheons when attendance goal is achieved, meaningful interactions, round robin ideating. Start actually meeting 10 minutes late for people to socialize. Okay. Yeah, as long as you frame that, like, so people know that's what's happening and they're not like, why isn't this starting? Because I've been in meetings like that too. Awesome ideas, you guys. So don't worry if this felt a little uncomfortable. All of this gets easier with more practice, and truly ideation is something that if you practice it often, you will get better and better at it. So congratulations, you guys. You just jumped into the define and ideate stages of design thinking. So that was awesome. I am so, so happy and thankful and grateful for each of you who participated, maybe felt a little weird or uncomfortable being thrown into this stuff, but it had fruitful endings. So thank you very much. And now we have time for a Q&A session, a 10-minute Q&A session. So please go ahead and drop your questions into the chat for me. Those questions can be about the course in 2026, and myself, Sierra, or Brittany are happy to answer those questions, or those questions can be about design thinking and how might you apply design thinking in your particular workspace or work environment or at your company, or even how you might convince people of the value. Let's see here. Okay. Yes, that's right. Brittany answered your question. That was a great question. Are you going to be sharing your session recording and slides? 100%. That will be shared. UW Continuing Studies is awesome at that, and they are all over it.
Yeah, you'll receive a follow-up email next week with the link to this recording on a private YouTube channel and the additional details to register for the full course if you would like. I see Maria's question, and it kind of overlapped with another question we had, Holly, which Becky noticed we kind of skipped over the empathize step for the sake of time today, but can you give us a little more insight as to what empathize looks like in that full course?
Yes, absolutely. Great question. So in the full course, we'll be spending time in every single stage of design thinking, and we will be doing activities in every stage so that you can really hammer home the points of what those things are and what's happening and how you can bring it back to your workplace. We do a lot of different learning to listen, learning about interviewing, learning about having conversations, and also learning about there's a lot about user personas and journey mapping. And I realize that these words don't necessarily mean anything to any of you at this stage. And that's what the beauty of the full length course teaches you, so that you can really understand how to use design thinking. I mean, this is just like a brief glimpse of those stages, and to give you a taste so that you know what is coming. But honestly, the actual course, there's a lot of activity in breakout rooms. Like I said, there's a lot of conversation. And I did see a question about how many people attended the course. And I know Brittany, I believe, has the numbers on that, on the numbers of attendees.
Yeah, for our registration cap, can you help clarify?
Oh, yeah, they just asked how many people can attend. I think the cap is, I have a vague idea, but I don't want to throw it out there if I'm wrong.
I believe it's 24.
24.
24? Yeah, that
24
sounds about right.
class. It's more of an intimate type of learning environment, and sometimes we have really fast-paced courses where there's a lot of lecturing, and sometimes we have really hands-on collaborative working sessions. And Holly's focus for these classes is really about making space for everyone to fully participate and engage and really understand the processes that are involved with design thinking, so that they're able to walk away from the class and bring their newfound information back to their organizations or their personal life.
Yeah, and I mean, we have to keep it a little bit small because, like I said, we're doing so much activity with each other and learning from each other. And it's all about the experience and the practicing, because it's not like a lecture where we sit together for a few hours and I talk and talk and talk and we read through slides. I give a little mini lesson, then we practice it, then we discuss, we have questions, people are processing what they're learning as we go. Really, people are not coming away with a lot of questions because we're answering them as we go through it together. And then there will be, obviously case studies, so you can also kind of try to see other case studies, so you can kind of try to see how this might relate to your particular space. I see somebody asking about Six Sigma versus design thinking. So Six Sigma is very data driven, and it's kind of about I think it's about reducing defects and improving process, which is awesome. But design thinking is this human-centered piece, right? And it's iterative, and it's very based in creative problem solving and innovation. So yeah, that empathy piece and the iteration and trying to understand the end users using kind of like I guess, qualitative measures. Let's see, other questions. So the time commitment, homework outside of class. So the class is a 12-hour time commitment. We meet 3 times, and each time we meet, it's a 3-hour synchronous time, obviously virtual. And then the expectation is you'll have 3 hours of outside homework. Typically, it's like, I think it's like an hour to an hour and a half, kind of connected to each of those courses, roughly. So 12 hours you need to set aside. And it's typically, I believe it's usually like 9:30 to 12:30. And let's see, I think there was another question similar. Oh, Brittany, I see a few of these questions that might be more adjusted to UW
Yeah.
continuing.
Yep, I've been answering in the Q&A as some of these scheduling questions have come up. So our link to our website is in there if you need specifics on price and the exact dates and times. We have a couple of other conceptual questions too, Holly, if you want to take a couple more about the process of design thinking itself.
Yeah, I'm looking at this one question here. Do people seek this work out, or is this something more advertised as a service? My thoughts are some orgs are still in a traditional day in, day out regime and may not be aware of this service or ways to train employees. So I wouldn't say it's exactly a service. You have to have somebody that takes the initiative, is willing to lead this charge and bring this design thinking in if you're trying to go about this formally. However, in the course, I'll be giving you like little excerpts of different activities and ways that you can bring it in honestly by yourself if nobody is on board, if you maybe aren't a key decision maker, or if you are at a more traditional company where they're not about change, because there are a lot of those. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of those. So there are things you can do to kind of improve your own experience and also improve your team members' experience, little things. And then of course, I go to companies have me come in and do this type of thing if they're trying to bring in innovation or creativity. And I recommend, sending somebody to the UW Continuing Studies class from your team to kind of understand and see the value. And then some of those activities they can bring back with them and work through with their team. Again, it takes a little bit of convincing. Yeah, nobody says yes to everything right away. But some of the case studies that I share talk about these large companies that are doing extremely financially well. And I again underline that financial component because a lot of these traditional companies, they lead with the financial piece. Why would I do this? Like, is it going to save me money or make me money? Well, yes. And those are some selling points for those traditional organizations. Like, it improves your processes with your team, and it makes your teams better and stronger and more efficient. And it also builds trust, and it makes your place where you work a better place to be. And, employee retention is hard to get in this world. And this type of thing can help you, obviously, if you're in the right organization that's willing to like kind of hear you out. And let's see. And I want to
There's
be
a great
considerate.
question in the Q&A that I really feel like could help me piece together this puzzle of design thinking. So if this process is so iterative, Holly, like how do you know when you're done and how do you measure success?
I mean, these are great questions. When I say highly iterative, I'm not saying like we necessarily do this 30 times, but I'm saying, because when you go to test it with people, people love it. It's like, I'll give you an example. If you're not in product, I mean, some of you, maybe you build websites, maybe you are in product, but let's say you're just a regular person working a job in an office. And basically it's like, if you have to create an agenda or a spreadsheet, you maybe have to do this for a report every week. You can take feedback from your peers and say, this report is kind of monotonous. I know we kind of dread this. It's based on that pain point. Somebody doesn't like it. It's not getting the results you want. The meetings are ineffective, whatever. You need to talk to the people. What don't they like about the meetings? What don't they like about the spreadsheet? What don't they like about the agenda? And then the things that you have the power to shift, you kind of define that problem statement of, okay, these are the things that they don't like. How might we improve XYZ? And then you ideate on different things you can do. And maybe it's just you're lonesome by yourself, you're one person powerhouse team, and go you. Or maybe it's 3 of you on your team that are going to try to tackle this problem. And then you prototype, you put together a whole new agenda template or a whole new spreadsheet template or a report template. And then you test it with your teammates. And, you'll get some feedback. People are like, well, I didn't like this. I was missing this. You took that piece off. That was really important. That's my go-to thing that I always look for. Okay, well, you can incorporate that in a more valuable way than previously. And then you come out with a revision and it's better. It's all about your organization. How much do you have time and money for? We don't all have a limitless time to redo these things over and over again, but it's about that continuous improvement, which we're all seeking. Make it better, and then people will thrive. So, and I mean, look at iPhone. We all have these smartphones, right? So iPhone comes out with a new iPhone every few years, and it's about that bias for action. If they had waited to have the perfect phone, they wouldn't have had a phone out at all. They continuously make it better and fix the bugs, or sometimes they fix a bug and they make another bigger one that we all hate. But that's kind of that mindset of, I'm going to make things better, maybe slowly over time or quickly, whatever you're capable of with your team, knowing your leadership and how you can get people on board. I hope that answered that question a little bit. I want to be considerate of timing because it is 12:41. We have a few things to cover off, and then we have to end in 3 minutes. So I think we're going to have to wrap up the Q&As. Please feel free to reach out to our lovely team at UW Continuing Studies if you have more questions. Otherwise, I will go ahead and let you know what to expect with the class, and kind of gave you a sneak peek of that with some of those questions answered. But what are you going to expect in the full course? And basically, this is when the next time we're meeting. We're meeting in January. We do have other sessions, but this is the next one. It's going to be great. In the middle of winter, you need a little bit of like a highlight in your life. January 15th, January 22nd, January 29th, 9:30 to 12:30. These are Thursdays in January. And you can see those 3-hour time frames. What are you going to learn? You're going to understand the 5 stages of design thinking and gain hands-on experience, discuss how it addresses unmet needs and helps solve problems, identify how to solve wicked problems, those are the really big challenges using design thinking, and explain how each stage supports innovation to tackle challenges. So I kind of touched on this already, but this is key. This is how I work. I'm the type of person, I have a short attention span. I like things to keep moving. And I know that if you're not having fun, all of a sudden the learning becomes tedious and it's much harder to learn. So there's that listen and learn piece where I'm doing a mini kind of lecture, but always open for questions and discussion. Then we practice what we learn. And finally, that reflection, that discussion. How did it go? Well, how might you bring this into your workplace? And when you hear from your peers, it can often help you think about ways that that can come up and work for you in your actual work. So activities we do, lots of hands-on things, identifying pain points. We'll do a lot of listening. Ideation, you'll really understand how to have a successful ideation session. There's a lot of different techniques and a lot of ways so that not just the squeaky wheel in the room, the big voice or the senior person gets their ideas heard, but also those extroverts or those people who need more time to process or simply don't want to blurt out their ideas. There's a lot of wonderful ways I'll teach you. And then it's always inclusive. It's all about supporting each other and building off of each other and creating this space of trust where we can learn from each other. And without further ado, I want to thank you for your time and hand it over to Sierra for our last minute. Thank you all.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Brittany, and big thank you to Holly for guiding us through today's session and giving us ideas on how we can start incorporating design thinking into our lives. As a reminder, you will receive a follow-up email that includes a link to a recording of today's session. We hope you found this webinar valuable and we invite you to register for the full course. Lastly, I would like to acknowledge our team at DCS for the support, promotion, and production of this webinar. And on behalf of UW-Madison's Division of Continuing Studies, we thank you all for taking the time to join us today, and we hope to see you soon. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm.